And for the final time this evening, we bid you welcome again. One last game to do tonight between London Esports and NVision. Both teams sitting at 2 and 3, though both teams, I think it's fair to say, Jamada, we had pretty different expectations for coming into the split.
Yeah, I think definitely so. I think, the NVision roster had quite a few players where, particularly Two Cups, the previous top laner who is actually being subbed out for Brelia, which is a very old school name. We haven't seen Brelia in
been a while,
quite literally years. As well as Ollie, I believe, same support that was on that roster way back when. So very interesting to see these subs come out. But yeah, top side map was definitely where I was expecting, a lot of things to be happening here for NVision between DBL, Juantis, and Two Cups, and a relatively solid bottom lane, which wouldn't necessarily lose too much. But it hasn't really been the case. It's been very inconsistent. And it's the same thing for London, where there's a lot of it's big shoes to fill for Mankey in terms of picking up where Den Voxnay left off. It's hard to match that guy's performances when he's currently now in the NLC practically doing the same thing.
He was so good.
Well.
That guy's Jhin, when I cast him 6 months ago, was just obscene. And I'm so happy he's doing so well. But for Mankey, it's difficult to slip in here. And for London Esports, as we head into picks and bans, Gwen off the table, rightly so. Akkers, while it wasn't quite enough to carry them to a victory yesterday, certainly tried real hard. London Esports very much had a chance in that game yesterday versus Enclave, and only after a few things went wrong in the late game did they let that game slip away. Karma and Ezreal, the bans from London Esports in turn.
Yeah, so not willing to give over those really, really annoying utility champions. For NVision though, Gwen, very standard. Lucian, very standard, particularly into Beely as well. And Akali going to be removed away again. Every single game today, I think Akali's been banned, so, it's put a smile on my face. Viego removed as well. And now, you're thinking about Threshes, your Rumbles, loads of options really. Even Varus and Zhao, definitely first pickable. Loads of options. That will be the case here for London Esports.
Indeed it is, and the Xin Zhao, as you mentioned, is that first pick. Such a strong jungler, a lot of engage. The changes as well means he can just audaciously charge a marathon, it feels like these days. He just teleports to the other side of your screen, which is a little alarming if you're playing a squishy champion, I can tell you. On the other side, the response is the ever-present Rumble that's been around since MSI, and just thinking about locking in the Thresh as well for Ollie here does allow Fuyu to go towards some slightly riskier AD carries because of how useful that is.
Yeah, certainly so. Even if they want to go down something very standard like Varus as well, it just sets up for a very strong, hard to take down Varus because he's always got a Lantern to fall back onto. So for London, what will the response be? Are they going to lock in the Varus themselves if they want to try and secure some lane priority? Something like Varus plus Norlis honestly wouldn't be a terrible rotation if they want to get a really strong bottom lane matchup pretty much from the get-go.
How's Norlis? There it is.
If they want to pick up a mid laner as well, just sort of very early on to maybe force the hand of NVision, it could be an option. But I think Norlis is the first one locked in. I think Varus as well for Mankey would just be the best rotation here.
Instead, they'll go towards the Kai'Sa. It's the old school combo. It makes some sense, I suppose. You can dive in with the Xin Zhao, so at least thematically I understand it, but you do leave open the Varus, and I wonder whether NVision just locked it straight away. But Aphelios would make a lot of sense. I have cast so much Aphelios Thresh because I do some work over with the LGL stuff, and they love that lane. It's just a thing.
They love it. Yeah, I mean, it was a really strong combination at the start of this split as well, I think, or maybe it was last year. It's been so many metas, even though this champion has not been in the game for a crazy long time, where, Aphelios Thresh is just so hard to lock down. It just becomes so obnoxious. The Lantern alone makes this guy nearly unkillable.
But let's walk forward with Severum and murder everyone. It's nuts.
Yeah, exactly. So let's see how London are going to deal with this bottom lane. You can definitely say that London probably went out in the skirmishing outright just because Norlis, Kai'Sa plus Xin Zhao. Rumble, he needs that level 6 and he needs a very effective ultimate to sort of match the skirmishing prowess of a Xin Zhao. NVision, I think, taking things like the Twisted Fate off the table to stop some global presence is definitely a really good thing for this Aphelios lane. The Renekton as well, just a very strong solo lane that can be flexed between BD and Akkers, and London just removing away AD mids. We could see something like Tristana as well banned away. Yone, I think, same thing for Two Cups. Very proficient at both of these two champions. He played it a lot in the previous split out in the EBL. So London definitely doing their fair amount of researchers. NVision searching for a solo laner here, whether it's top or mid, it doesn't really matter.
Some traditional Fuyu hovers with the Sona coming out as well. We love to see it. It's something you like to offer every now and then. That's not a bad shout. It would make a lot of sense considering where things are bad. And the moment you speak about it, the moment it's locked in. The prophesying continues from Jamada here. So big-brained, he managed to make his way up to the LEC. That's why you can see there. Let's see what the response is.
Sort of telegraphed a bit with the Renekton
sure, of course,
ban as well, because it's such a hard matchup. But I think now for London, if they want to, you could see, the range technology out of Akers in the Gnar, and then for Beely, something standard wouldn't even be too terrible. Something like Syndra, Orianna could possibly be really. Honestly, I think Orianna might be.
Orianna make a lot of sense. Sticking that on the Jinza would be great. Yeah,
and it can really disrupt how Aphelios wants to play the game and so on. They need a little bit more AP at the moment. They're leaning a little more into the AD side of things, but definitely a control mage that can, disrupt the play patterns of how Aphelios wants to play. Definitely could be the best shout here.
What can you do to empower the people going in? Instead, we go towards LeBlanc. Beely's had a few choice games on this champion. I feel like a number of mid laners in the UKLC had a few choice games on LeBlanc, let's be fair.
We've got loads of good LeBlanc players on.
Really true.
Van Gogh,
Beely, the list goes on. Just a lot of people very good at that champion. Now to see what the response is into it. Silas has been a pick beforehand, and they'll be locked in again here. Be curious to see what the choice in Mythic will be from Beely as well, whether they try to match the Everfrosts or go towards a bit more burst in LeBlanc as well.
Yeah, it's always an interesting choice. I think in a game like this, Everfrost can definitely be very, very oppressive. You've got 3 melee champions and Aphelios slowing him down, ruin him, and extra time between the chains can honestly be the difference between winning and losing a fight. Against sort of 50 more damage compared to the procs of Ludens against an Everfrost. So we'll have to see what the choice actually is out of Beely in particular. But yeah, comps are in. I'm looking at London saying, Xin Zhao LeBlanc, if you want to be getting aggressive, you want to skirmish ASAP. Look towards NVision. I say, you've got a relatively strong top side. It can be hard to abuse the Gnar sometimes, but you're likely looking towards level 6 for that Rumble. Aphelios obviously wants a couple of items. You want to play around the 1-IM spike of the Silas, the 1-IM spike of the Gnar, of the Rumble rather, and then you sort of use it as a bridge to make sure that Fuyu can get online here.
Absolutely. Of course, if you can get Aphelios to a couple items and alongside things like the Silas, then you're feeling pretty good. And of course, as that Silas at the minute, as the Aphelios at the minute, you've got a decent amount of wave clear, so maybe try to get a bit of priority down there. But you've said it already. Long Shin's out. They're just going to try and duo up as quickly as they can and just go hunting for somebody.
Yep. And it's there's enough mobility between maybe Lantern and Silas, but other than that, no one else really has dashes on the enemy team. It can be very, very hard to escape the reaches of a LeBlanc with a Xin Zhao dashing in from like you quoted marathon ranges with the audacious charge. So they've got to definitely pay their respects. In my opinion, in the early game, there's a lot of priority kind of across the board for me with that Gnar as well on the top side set. It's going to struggle in terms of securing consistent lane prio. NVision, it's mostly about trying to play around the bottom side, but if you don't have mid-jungle priority, doing that gets real hard.
Well, it's a 5-man stack for London Esports, who do not want to give the chance for NVision to kind of hold them at bay. Jornatus just going to retreat his way out of the jungle, trying not to overheat and have his heat bar disappear on him. Ward goes through onto the red buff, and No Name and crew not leaving just yet. Oh, Jornatus, this is so risky. They can flash on you, and they're not going to. They're just going to throw the boomerang blade and show that they're still around. Curious to see what the plan is from NVision. Do they want to risk going over to the red buff? Do they want to try and potentially flex down towards the bottom side of the map? And looks like that's going to be the choice here. Doesn't feel safe to start at the red buff knowing that the wards were in there.
Yeah, I think a little bit too risky. They don't want to necessarily do that, but I think they would have seen the Rumble on the W start anyway, so they know where he's starting. They know what its pathing is going to be. So London, they still get all the information they need at the end of the day, and Xin Zhao probably even going to sweep that red buff ward away anyway, as there you go, it goes on cooldown, so a bit of extra XP going over to Hefe Mankey. This red buff going to go down, and then we'll see how aggressive No Name decides to get on the pathing. As I feel like throughout the day, whenever we've seen Xin Zhao's, they've mostly been geared into full clearing anyway, so It's not really been crazy attack the lanes until we sort of see level 4 come in after these skull traps.
Of course, you know, there is that you could go for level 2 if you're feeling really aggressive. And I'd like to see that, you know, just for me, this time out. Give me a level 2 again. But instead, we're going to see a level 1 hurt. What is it with Nautilus is finding these in the games we've been seeing? I feel like, have we seen Nautilus every game today? I feel like we've seen a lot of it.
We've seen a lot of Nautilus today. It could be every single game so far. He's popular champion, man. What can I say?
Flash for Flash. There we go. Feel like I've seen that quite a lot from Nautilus at level 1 and 2 as well.
Yeah, certainly have. And I mean, it's a win for you without Flash. It's a very vulnerable target when you're talking about having a Xin Zhao jungle, and there's no cleanse either in terms of like just removing the root. If you get locked down, you're probably going to get locked down very hard, so they're going to have to be very, very careful. Hex Flash channeled. Epe, he's looking for it, and I mean, he's so damn good at these hook champions.
He really is, and you could just sort of see Fuyu hugging that wall, trying to use the minions best they can. Of course, with the Severum has managed to heal up a fair amount, does offer a fair amount of lifesteal, which is pretty good. But Aka's with the shove in and topside, looking to threaten Jornatis around this Krug spawn, and LeBlanc's here as well, out of lane. Silas under tower, just gonna force this Rumble away from his clear, and the red buff as well. Massive invade from London Esports on the top side of the map.
Yeah, really, really good pathing from No Name, and great usage of priority in both solo lanes there. No Name free camped into that red buff. He knows Rumble's clearing from bot to top because of that ward at level 1, and it means that got pretty much free reign. 2 Cups had to go and catch the wave to stay, otherwise he would have missed out on too much XP. And we saw the massive wave that Brelia was catching underneath his tower too. So really good early game stuff here from London, and in particular No Name. And even on the bottom side, I think Mankey and Pepe also secured the Rift Scalar. So there's nowhere really for Wanatis to go and farm. So across the board, really good map movement, usage of information from that level 1.
Absolutely, keeping this Rumble away from level 6 as long as you possibly can, and conversely getting your Jins out as strong as early as you possibly can is pretty damn good. Yeah, gets the whole top side, skips as well for a bit of a quick reset. In fact, just looking for a quick gank. I think Aka's got taken a little low. You sort of flash from Brelia somewhere in there as well. A lot of action across the map right now. We'll keep up with it, feels like, despite nobody having died.
Yeah, no one's died yet, but that wave's kind of frozen, so if Brelia wants to not lose too much,
oh boy,
he's going to have to teleport to it. Yeah, there you go. So Aka's will likely teleport back, just because of how close the tower is, and in fact, Brelia probably will crash this. He's left unattended, so yeah, there you go. Teleport comes out. But I'm still going to hold this freeze in this very precarious position where Brelia wants to farm. Gonna overextend for it. Yes, there's a ward right now, but he doesn't know when Xin Zhao can make a reappearance.
And just look at Jornatis as well. He's on the other side of the map. He's clearing wolves. He's got raptors to do. Like, it's going to take him 30 seconds or so to get up there, and that's a fair amount of minions going to just be lost because of the unfortunate wave position.
Yeah, certainly so. And Brelia not having the best time at the moment. Down 10 CS. However, it is made up in the mid lane. You can certainly say that. A lot of CS up. 2 Cups is over Beely. Was the roam. Beely did sacrifice a little bit of CS. Wouldn't have been too much though. He made up by that wave crashing in, but for now, top side definitely bleeding a little bit on the NVision side, but it's nothing that's too egregious right now. Not costing the game by any means. A lot of focus coming into this top side.
No, really stop it. They know it's respawn. This is just horrific. Please stop. Leave the battle alone.
They know No Name's here. They don't know
Let me have the
here.
Krugs. No, I know Jeff is there. More Krugs gone down. Jornatis can lose there as well. Brelia has to back off the tower as well because he does not want to take the 3-man dive, especially with level 6 available for Akers. Don't know how far Brelia is off that on the XP gauge, so pretty big deal. It does give Fuyu and Oli a chance to shove out bot side and maybe get a bit of pressure while the Nautilus is out. Of course, Thresh and Fellas with the right guns can certainly get a decent shove in. Infernum, pretty good for its wave clear, and Mankey's got a big wave to pick up, but without a rumble or anything around, not really any threat of a dive.
No, Fuyu will pick up a solo play, I believe. Yeah, there you go, 160. Only playing Lantern, so isn't going to be stealing the plates. Yeah, he wants the second one real bad, but you can see Wanatis in the area. And honestly, really impressive from London so far on their waves. They understand when to attack the top side with these stacked waves. They understand how to hold these freezes properly to punish. And right now, Aka's, his lead is being extended further and further. They've invaded on these stacked waves 2 times as well. So they're clearly coming out with a clear game plan. All this pressure from the lane priority really paying off at the moment. It's not the most tangible lead in the world right now at 500 gold, but if they can start to turn it into neutral objectives, you can see Juanes is forced off this ROM. Just small things like this. Ollie being pulled off the bottom wave now. So London can just try and force bottom lane priority potentially. No name hooked, but it's not going to turn into anything.
It's a nice hook. You think maybe there's something to follow, but there's no lantern, no jungler, and it could be a pretty big risk at this point. Decide against it. Crescendums and the Infernum will allow a decent amount of clear on here, but it allows London Esports with the wave shoved in bot and who otherwise engaged to head over to this first Drake at 7.5 minutes. It is a decently early Drake, not quite the 5-minute Drakes you can do, but you take that one as the smite is completed as well, so No Name has that challenge smite available. Beely does land the chains here, but I'm not sure how much more they're going to get. Land the hook as well. Actually, I take it back. I thought 2 cups would be fine. Gets a decent amount of healing. Ashes away from the burn. Not enough.
No.
How will be rooted in place. No way. But Akers roams down. For half a second, I thought he'd done it until I realized I wasn't paying attention to the mini-map. That feels appropriate for my elo.
It's all right. I mean, again, it's just the lane priority just coming out and being used so properly here by London. They finally reap proper benefits in a kill. First blood going over to the Gnar in the top side, and again, first move from everybody just means they're able to proactively make plays wherever they decide to. And in this case, it was in the mid lane. 2 cups does his best for the grand escape, but it just doesn't end up happening. And with this Herald being picked up, and again, more movement from Hepe, a Hex Flash over the wall. He doesn't avoid that ward, so they know he's there. So Vanata's going to make his rotation up.
How many times has he done that Hex Flash? Brelia's going to walk straight into him. Straight into him. There's Jornatis, though, and it's perhaps a bit of a bait in turn. Jeppe Howard taken pretty down below. Akers going to get the Mega Knot into the wall. Brelia gets a huge Haymaker shield, though, and escapes. That was damn close. Jornatis flashing forward. The Flame Spitters on, and it'll be Flame roasted northwest. That does come through. Now, No Name did get the Herald Master flash away from a death sentence. Would have been exactly that. Bit of an overstep, and that ward you called out the Hex Flash one too many times to call that move.
Yeah, and here we go. He's looking for the 1v1.
The Crescendum, he could think about flashing, but the problem is just the killer instinct, and I just don't think he can quite get in. I appreciate the look, but just can't quite get close enough.
No, and it actually looks like moving from 2 cups and Ollie, they were thinking about a bottom side rotation, but it's not actually going to come out. Yeah, I mean, I was kind of making noise there because I felt like Akers could have maybe body blocked that Harpoon for Hepe, but decided against it. So to support kind of just die, not necessarily for free. But Ollie has flash, but I don't think there's necessarily enough movement here from Hepe to make it here in time. Gonna get out
to walk away. Yeah, if that was me, I would have flashed the wall, but again, I've mentioned it a few times already. I'm not that good at this game. And he has the nerves of steel required to just walk away. And Mankey doesn't feel confident enough to pull the trigger on the killer instinct, which again might have been a little risky to a Thresh with the Felios behind him.
Yeah, definitely would have been a bit risky. So take stock of where we are, I think. It's only really a 500 gold.
It really is.
Lead for London. Despite how well I feel like they've been playing with a lot of the waves and wave states and some of these invade times, it's not really turned into anything crazy big. They've gotten all of the neutral objectives so far, yes. But you look at the CS leads, it's only really the top lane where there's something that could turn into anything with the massive CS lead that Akers has found himself with. But at the end of the day, it's kind of just the Gnar. Like, Fed Gnars aren't necessarily the most oppressive things in the world to deal with.
Unless you get to have, like, continual side lane pressure, and he's certainly thinking about it here. Brelia does force the flash away as the mini-Gnar comes through. That was nicely played, no stun, but look who's here, it's Beely! Decent attempt, but can't get the last punch. Good roam from Beely, will get a second kill onto Akers, but Brelia made that one damn close.
It's just so hard to play this game if you're NVision laners right now. It just constantly feels like you're outnumbered, regardless of how safe you feel. Beely, another great roam, gonna make it back to some of this wave. And again, just priority being used. I don't even know if Beely roamed on a shoved in wave or not. I think he just moved up.
Decided now with the time.
Because, yeah, just decided, hey, I'm just gonna miss some CS regardless. And honestly, Brelia does a really good job of maybe turning that around into a 1-1 at the very least, but unfortunately, one tower shot away, a couple more punches away. Can't quite make it happen, unfortunately.
not quite enough. Still, that gold lead does extend a little to about 1,500 gold, which is pretty good news for London Esports fans. Of course, it's not out of reach, and things like, of course, the Rumble has stabilized somewhat, even has a slight gold advantage because of the kill there. Towards the bot lane as well, Fuse managed to stabilize. The big difference really is in that top lane, with a slight advantage for Beely as well.
Yeah, definitely Beely spinning ahead just because of those assists, and of course the big one, that 1.7-ish thousand gold lead here for Akers. Should actually have his stride breaker pretty soon. I think on the next recall perhaps.
You may want to have it available for the dragon that's spawning in 28 seconds as well. Does have teleport, and with London summoning their Herald in mid, they'll put themselves pressure to just walk on over. And maybe even need to burn that teleport from their line.
Akers is in Mega right now, so NVision can't really make an aggressive play. Certainly get punished. So Reddy is trying to stay close to him in order to potentially cancel out teleport, but he is going to fizzle out into mini now. And I think with the signal of that, London, you know, might be a little more respectful, and NVision, they're going to move first onto this dragon.
Despite using the Herald, despite the advantage and the teleport that's potentially to use, they're going to walk in over, but get the Herald on the side, maybe think about it, but does get formed in place. Binding Eclipse, does it work? Yes, there's a depth charge, but it's already too late for the support. Flash in onto the Nautilus, who's now trying to escape. Ollie is going to be in trouble. Ollie's going to try and get away, but Beely's just dead. Jordatus burns him in the ground. No Name's dead, but as well, and Jordatus. Where did that come from?
Yeah, it's just an excellent equalizer is where it came from. It just meant that regardless of what direction Beely ended up going in, he just stayed on the red carpet. And I mean, okay, Mankey finds a return kill somehow onto Ollie. But at the end of the day, the fight is still lost. The Dragon's still going to go over to NVision. Great stuff from Juanatis with that equalizer. You don't often get to see equalizers be so oppressive in a small skirmish like that. But man, that just felt really bad to play. Really great stuff as well from Fuyu to lock down Hepe at the very start of this fight, which we'll get the replay of right now. Pulls out the Gravitum, and you see just real nice mechanics actually to hide the fact he's going to root him. Misses out on the Moonlight Vigil onto Mankey, but that's okay. No Name tries to get aggressive, but you just see, watch the equalizer. Once it comes down, it's on top of No Name. Beely tries to distort forwards, and the entire time he's on this equalizer, he eats the exploding Q2 off of Silas, and Juanatis picks up 2 kill credits for his name. Real good stuff there from NVision, and somehow Ollie on the back end did die, but doesn't really mean much in the grand scheme of things. Just means that Mankey will be a little bit closer to his core items.
Indeed, and 3-0-1 now is the Rumble. That's Dark Harvest as well, who will definitely pick up a couple procs from that one, I can tell you, and heading towards either the Rocket Bell or the Night Harvest, feeling pretty happy. Got himself a stopwatch as well. 2 cops, just trying to have a look at Beely, but couldn't quite find it. No Name and Jeppe Howe around, maybe. There's a little bit of a preemptive play there in case Beely did think about a look in, but it doesn't happen. And we're back to an even game state. How's this happened again in a game today? Back to literally only a couple hundred gold apart, Dragon apiece. Second Herald, though, does look like it will be going towards No Name, much like the first.
Yeah, and I think if I'm London, I want to start seeing them just start to play around Akers for a little bit. Make sure that Mankey is still getting resources where available. Just play around your strong side of the map right now. But it's really accelerated. He's going to be able to score priority. Skirmishing into him is going to be really difficult with the stride breaker already in. I think that's definitely the call here, and you can sort of see it already in some of the vision laid out on the top side, and the fact that Hepe is looking for this hook onto
max
power.
Range hook, but he's 4 levels down, and instead we're going to get a teleport in from 2 Cups, who was aware there were a couple members around, but it leaves this mid lane turret open for Beely to try and take up with the chains being missed. Fuyu with Crescendum 7 just walks up LeBlanc. Yeah, you might be the Mistress of the Black Crows, I apologize, but Smoke and Mirrors ain't going to do much against a massive storm of chakrams. Don't recommend that.
No, definitely don't. Felios, he's not at 200 years right now, but he's ramping up.
That's like 50. It's pretty good going.
That's 75.
Okay, sorry, underselling.
Yeah, understanding a bit. Wait for, I believe the build path is still like Runan second off the back of your Mythic, so we'll have to keep track of Fuyu on this champion, something that he's very comfortable on the Aphelios. Played it plenty of times throughout KL.
Hook into the Moonlight Vigil. Don't even need to use the Calibrum active. Moonshot not required. Gets to walk up and take him down. She should have been afraid of the Chakrams. I told her already. should have been listening into the comms. Over here's the equalizer afterwards. NVision coming alive.
Yeah, and there you go. I mean, NVision for me, a team, a roster, well, yes, it's not exactly the exact same roster as initially fielding. We have to hold this point. Brelia is going on to Mankey. Gonna find a really nice haymaker. It doesn't actually get the true damage portion though.
Not
as massive damage as you see said at this moment in the game. But yeah, the NVision roster, I had relatively high hopes for. But I've not necessarily delivered on the consistency front. Got the substitutes in, and right now today versus London, who, yes, as a team as well, similar expectations of them. Trying to at least, you know, come close or match. Or even best, I suppose, in some of the highest role scenarios, their spring split performance. They've been lacking on that consistency front too. I feel like they've, you know, as a team, we've seen excellent moments out of them on sort of the micro/macro level of, you know, playing really well around these waves in the early game, make sure they're denying as much resources as they can from the enemies. Then it comes to the mid game sometimes, and they kind of start like faltering.
Yeah, I'm going to need London Esports to step it up because I'm in danger of going 1-3 here today in my predictions, which would be disastrous for my reputation. So come on, London, you need to step it up a little bit here as they're down about 1,500 gold, and part of it for me as well, despite, of course, my slight ire at my prediction rate at the moment, is Akers is the one with most of the gold lead for London Esports, and he has not been involved in any of the major team fights yet. As another equalizer comes through, never mind talking about things, Jamada, we're going to have to talk about murder instead. Jepper Harris trying to get out here, throws out the depth charge, 2 cups over the wall though, does avoid the Everfrost, but now Brelly is teleported in behind, gets a face breaker, and it's Fuyu who brings down the Nautilus.
Yeah, they keep on picking on Hepe here. Unfortunately for him, not having the best of games by scoreline right now. This Dragon's just spawning up, so I don't even think there's going to be a contest. It's just going to be London picking up the top tower and then trying to maybe push even further forward with this Rift Herald if they've just dropped in the top side. Trying to trade for something here. Very fast response from London at the end of the day. As they should be able to pick up this tower. They might get the second charge if they really want it, but I think now that 2 cups is here, they might just yield it. But I think trying to get this charge off is a really, really big deal. Chunking out this inhibitor tower, it will regen over time, but getting it as low as possible.
Does not quite get in his lane tier 2 because BD threatens him away, and he does have to take the Lantern. As I don't know whether that charge came in. I think it didn't by the sound of your response. I was busy looking at the mini-map, which didn't help checking out turret HP.
Didn't quite go through, so
there you go. Thank you
no
again.
second charge. Thank you very much. No second charge, but still gold traded out. Game remains pretty even, honestly.
It does.
So, credit to London for at least injecting themselves with a little bit of gold on the backside of that, and even finding another tower, as they have now decided to make this top side of the jungle their own territory. As NVision, I really hope they respect
Jornatis, don't you dare walk in. He's going to get hold in place. But he does get to go. Golden still going to flash away. Does stay alive. And the equalizer comes out. And just Jeppe Howe dies for the 5th time this game. Beely's in trouble as well. 2 cups gets the Blanc. And it's a 2-for-9. And it looked so good. The roams early on. Beely and Jeppe Howe teaming up, but couldn't get much more than a kill or 2 that they assisted in. And now you're looking at a 0-5-1 Nautilus. That's easy pickings anytime they go in.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, the idea there from London wasn't even terrible. I think it's actually correct play. Just, they can't burst down Thanatos because he's got that stopwatch, unfortunately. I also think the hook, the way it interacted, I think he actually clashed with the wall. He didn't fully come in to Hepe, which definitely aided him a little bit. As Fuyu, he's flashed away from the depth charge.
Mankey goes in. Goes Golden. Might have a chance here, but doesn't have heals. Is poorly going down, but takes a lot of Mankey's health bar with them. Now No Name owns Aurelia, thinking about going in as well. Has got a significant opportunity. Mankey is going to continue autoing. The Acathian Rain comes through and brings down Thresh. No. Beely's in with Akers. The equalizer comes down, but so is Jornatis. Now Akers is here. No Name gets Aurelia, and London Esports turn it on. 2 cups not available. He has the teleport, but I think he just has to stay away because Baron is all that London Esports care about now.
And it's just coincidence and timing when it comes to this fight. 21 minutes into the game, the Baron's going to go over to London, and NVision just across the map, scattered. Picked off in their own jungle, picked off on their side of the map as well. Fuyu stepping too far forward. I'm not sure why. I think he just wanted the tower and he dies, blows his flash, and potentially his heal. I don't think he quite had it. Unsure on that cooldown there, but yeah, I mean, honestly, across the board from NVision. A really huge fumble and a massive goal swing now over to London as we're going to get the replay. Depth charge comes out. Fuyu just extends too far forward. He gets the tower, yes, but the killer instinct comes down at the same time as the hook. Fuyu has nowhere to go, even with that stopwatch. It buys time, but it's only really delaying the inevitable. Ollie does his best to stay alive for as long as he can, and you can see No Name also running Brelia down. And though we can't see the minimap at the moment, Onatis is being picked on by Beely and Akers. A double teleport actually is how that happened. So NVision didn't actually do their due diligence in clearing out some of the jungle vision that London had previously established, and they get punished for that as well.
They really, really do. In fact, I just want to call back to a point you made way back in Pick and Ban. Like, you literally said London have fantastic target access. I paraphrase a little, and you were really worried by the fact that actually, you know, NVision kind of lack a lot of dashes. I mean, 2 cups just there had to burn flash as I was speaking about it. And if London Esports did get on top of them, there's not a lot of way they get to run away, and that's what happens there. They get run down, split apart, and taken out.
Yeah, and the thing, positioning is so important. The lantern can only save you from so much. The shielding can only save you from so much. When you're talking about the amount of damage that can come out for some of these champions in such a short amount of time, you know, you're effectively working with, you know, two pseudo assassins, or 2.5 pseudo assassins between Kai'Sa, LeBlanc, and Xin Zhao. Certain builds. This time's gone for the more bruiser-based one, not the Chidonica Essence Reaver into. I can't remember what you went after. I think it was actually Gordon. Still,
slightly tanky.
Xin Zhao. Yeah, Xin Zhao still does a lot of burst damage at the end of the day, and NVision, after that series of play, definitely going to struggle to find a way back into it. They had a relatively comfortable win condition.
It really did.
And so just keeping the game stable. They've got the Aphelios, they've got, you know, they've had Rumble consistently find really great ultimates. 2 cups. Skirmishing with Akers.
Trying his absolute best. Your assist is coming down, but actually the equalizer just out of range. That's going to be down now. It's not even going to clear the wave because it's too close. It's actually on their own minion wave. And all the while, Beely's like, well, you've engaged on the bot side, so I get to walk up and start ordering this tower. Borrelia's doing their best to clear the wave, but versus Baron minions, not exactly the best wave clear. Fuyu does at least get the mid-wave shoved up, but all the while, Mankey has retreated with No Name to be able to take this Ocean Drake and prevent the Soul Point win condition for NVision. And the game is now looking firmly in the control of London Esports. Now, though, Demada, they have to close it out because they did not manage to do that yesterday when they had similar turnaround.
Yeah, so fingers crossed for the London supporters that they can do that for NVision. You know, the wave clear isn't great. You know, you've gone as here or something like that in the game.
Sure.
Just kind of mop up these waves, even on the Baron waves, when Baron buff was obviously an issue. So gonna have to likely try and find somebody who tries to push a bit too far forward too quickly on this London side when they're on the advance. But honestly, if London make this approach, you know, cautiously and take the time that they need to with vision, I mean, Ollie has to flash away from a rooted auto attack. You know, it's tough for NVision. But if London do approach this properly, then there's just not really much recourse for NVision out of hoping that London botch tower dives.
All right, my eyes turn to Fuyu. He's got 2.5 items. Is the Phantom Dancer for even more attack speed, not the Hurricane? He's got his way on towards what's looking like either an Infinity Edge or I suppose potentially a Bloodthirster, but without the lifesteal and Echo's got life, which I think maybe caught off guard a little bit here. Never mind Fuyu, because this Nautilus is being caught out. Mankey onto the Equalizer. Brelia, though, going to go down. I appreciate the look. It doesn't work out. Now they're kind of down another man, but at least they haven't had their base broken into quite yet.
No, not yet, but it's going to be pretty soon. There is no Baron buff to make these minions pretty obnoxious to deal with, but still they're being sieged on in all 3 lanes. And they're even taking the time to try and sync these up as properly as they can. All the waves are going to crash at the same time, so now NVision, they've got to try and defend this at a numbers disadvantage. There's no bot wave to work with, so now everyone's going to go to the mid lane. Tower being chipped as slowly as possible, but Mankey on this Kai'Sa, just short-range AD carry. He's not got a lot of range in him.
They just have to wait on this next Baron spawn to really have easy siege options. You're kind of right. I mean, LeBlanc, I suppose, is a ranged mid laner, but it's not exactly a Lucian or something that shreds through towers. Akers is the Gnar in mini form. Has tower threat, but with Mankey being so short-range, you're absolutely right. It's just going to be very difficult to break in as yet. And with Baron spawning in just under 50 seconds, why waste time trying to just throw waves of tower when you can set up big level work?
Exactly. There's no need to potentially force a siege and get engaged on at a not so, happy time, put it like that. When you can just set off this Baron. You've got all of the map control in the world. It's going to be, damage shown here as, it's a bit inflated on the Akka side of things.
Because he's attacking a health stacker,
But at the end of the day, the fact that the damage numbers are so low kind of just indicates, one, there's not been too many fights in this game, or great team fights. Two, it's been London, forcing their leads off of some of those wave things from earlier on. It hasn't necessarily, played out in the sense of, the Akka's lead is poured out onto the rest of the map. But certainly the small increments of leads that it got them led to gold injections later on down the line as well. So certainly...
Just in time, I do want to call this out for the Baron. Fuyu picked up the Infinity Edge to match up against Mankey. I was worried he wasn't going to have it, but just back to get that, that's a big deal. Silas is backing as well, so going to try and pick up some items as well. Not quite sure what they're going to go for. It's the Fiendish Codex, so not a full item completion. With 2 items on most major carries here outside of Borrelia, who is still down at that's items 2 cups. Getting a lot of damage flashing. Gonna try and get something onto Beely here. Gets the Everfrost. Ruler Blaze. Mankey comes in to turn it around. That killer instinct came from downtown. The plasma does its work. Now Akka's in a spurt of bother, but he's going to be able to try and get out as well. Now Jeff Behow is going to get Root and Blade with the Binding Eclipse, courtesy of the Gravitum ultimate. Gets a big knockup, trying to run away, but it's going to walk across the Carpet of Doom. And Dortis gets that one instead, with Mankey taking the base. He can't go for Baron. Akka's going to walk in to try to interrupt them with a boomerang. No, Akkas, you can't do him like that. Missed the face break as well. Mankey's still going in. You can try and potentially shove onto him. They're going to run away. They've just kept up to stop the backs. They just have to stop the backs. Fuyu is there. Big hook. There's not Fuyu up the wall. The teleport back. It's going to get interrupted. And Akkas gets a big knockup though. And Mankey now in spurt of bother on their own. But Fuyu gets killed to Akkas on a killing spree. Feely over the wall. Gets this as well. Ollie is here. Got a blast go, but it's going to be so little, so late. And actually now with 2 members dead and literally a Nexus turret down, I think London don't even need to think about the Baron. They can try it and 2 cup rooted in place. Can they get any more? Audacious Charge could be taken, but they've got to be aware that the Mega Gnar ult is available that can cause a turnaround. Instead, London Esports will force me to take a step back and they'll retreat back to the Baron. But that was a series of really nice macro attempts.
Honestly, Mankey hovering over Beely to make sure that he's okay. He's got the killer instinct. He's on a dead wave, so he knows he's got the time to do it. He's got all of the vision on the top side, and he knows that realistically NVision aren't going to respond to a random killer instinct on the bottom side. Picks up 2 cups. He remains on the bottom side to shove out the wave, whilst Beely reset. Makes it back to this Baron side of the fight instead. And Mankey basically ends up in one of those base race situations where normally you see it's a top laner or a mid laner that's on the side wave. Instead, it's him on the side wave trying to end the game, and unfortunately doesn't quite have all of the London members stop all of the recalls. You get the replay here. Beely definitely in a bit of a sticky situation, but as you just highlighted, it's that downtown killer instinct. Akka's being jumped onto, but all of the Hyperfrost plus the Stride Breaker movement speed means that he's out. And yes, Hepe does die, but they burn. Honestly, the Equalizer, the Moonlight Vigil, the box even as well, just loads of tools just to take down support and trade. And then they realize they can't really do the Baron here. They've got to reset. They've got to go back. 2 cups instead. No one's spending the base. And it's just the Boomerang blade.
Just
stops everybody.
We're going to have to cut the replay short, I think, because the Barons come out and the final inhibitor tower is taken down. Still got inhibitor on the top side to take out after this mid one. We see London just rotate over to go and take that down. Akka's and Mega Gnar is a serious threat. NVision, you have one last chance to try and make something happen here. He's got Fuyu at 3 items. He's got Severum and Crescendum. If he gets to free fire, he will shred whoever stands in front of him. It's time to see whether 200 years is going to be enough to save this game. As 2 cups. Certainly a couple zeros short of staying alive there. Good grief, that was close. Now that final inhibitor continues to be under siege. Jamada, anything NVision can do right now.
I don't think so, man. It's looking really, really hard. They've got all 3 inhibs down. Baron buff is being layered on top of these creeps as well. The wave clear's here, kind of, but realistically, look at the super starting to come in. It's going to be overbearing NVision. They have to find a good hook, but I don't know if this is it.
Attacker's going in. He doesn't get as much damage as he'd like, but he has got a Mega Nine to the wall, and Beely is on a killing spree. Fuyu is there trying to stay alive. He's got Crescendum and now Calibrum for those long-range shots, but I don't know if the Moonshot will be enough. Chance in hell. Shut down onto Beely is something, and maybe they can do it. The Chakrams! The Chakrams are huge. Mankey is gone, though. He gets the kill he needed to. Fuyu dies, and 2Cup to the back is going to get something, but it's a triple. Make it a quadra. And for half a second, you hoped for Aphelios. It was not enough, and it is only Beely that falls. And London Esports, after a mid-game that looked shaky, pull it all around.
Yeah, honestly, you know, it was a very shaky mid-game. I think NVision definitely had you know, a lot of opportunities handed to them, and they capitalized really, really well. I think, you know, you had this Aphelios on the bottom side who was able to scale relatively freely because a lot of the focus from London was on the top side, setting Brilliant behind, putting Akuz ahead. But, you know, they weren't really able to put Fuyu in a position on this Aphelios to actually carry the game. There were too many diving aspects of the composition, which just made it too hard to pilot. Even with the Thresh there, even with other peeling options like Set playing a more defensive style, wouldn't have realistically have been enough. See the gold graph, it was really close for about sort of 18, 19, 20 minutes. But as soon as that Baron came up, as soon as that pick came down in the mid lane, Fuyu's probably going to be kicking himself for getting caught in that situation and having it snowball into the situation that it did, where they lost 4 members and a Baron. And from there, they lost too many towers on the map, and the base was cracked open as well.
Man, got to give him a little time to get into the Discord and get set up, but we have got Akuz from the Victorious London Esports will be coming in for an interview in a bit. But man, what a final game, and what a day of games. Day of games. I might be Pride Month, but that was a little bit much there. And instead, we've got to talk about some of those standings, because it got pretty exciting today. And we finally got a clear top 1 just about from M&M.
Yeah, it was pretty close. I think, you know, a fair amount of the games. But yeah, M&M eventually broke out ahead. They are in first now. We are waiting for the standings. I don't know if the standings are actually meant to be prompt right now. It's just how it works sometimes.
It's the way
there you go.
Thank you so much. We love it.